There's going to be a formality in what we do today, and so that many of these who are going to the Renshi Sensei to a 6th degree perhaps have not either seen, and they certainly have not been involved in this. The very first thing that will be presented, I will read a very brief history, and it's hard to condense down 50 years into a brief history and all the different places that they have studied and competed and trained and all of that. So I'm going to give highlights of that, and then after I've read that, we will have them come forward. The very first thing that they will be rewarded or awarded will be their belt. And it is different from putting on a black belt and being awarded. From 6th degree up, they put on their own belt, but they leave the knot untied. And then that will be tightened on them. And what that represents is it was their perseverance. Right? It was their determination. It was their overcoming the injuries. It was there when Satan whispers in your ear, you need to just quit. It was their perseverance and their work that brought them to this point. But also, knowing the biblical principle, iron sharpens iron, as one person sharpens their friend. And so there will be those of us who are able to take and tighten the knot. And those will be people often listed on their resumes with dozens of people that they work with. But there will be some that will be more than others. And we will at some point have those who have trained and just simply stand where you are, but there will be those who will come forward. After their belt is tied on, there are 2 swords for every person who is promoted. And the primary sword is, we find Ephesians the 6th chapter says, it is the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And we will be giving them a special Bible. Krista has in gold put the Bushido on that. She's done the calligraphy for your name and the occasion, and then I've written in there some scriptures for each one of you. That's the most important sword. And then they will receive also a sword that is not one that you can just go buy from some store or factory, anything like that. Many of these swords are swords that were carried in battle, and they will be presented that sword. Those of you receiving that, I have taken time historically to go through these books and then have asked questions of men like Sam Young and Mike Evans, and also from those who have purchased the swords. So I want you to be sure and have that, where sometimes the swords may look alike, but when you study it carefully, there's not a single one of these swords that is alike. Every one have unique features to them, and I wanted to point that out in what we wrote out. Just like every one of our martial artists, we did not cookie cutter them out. God formed them and put in them a warrior's heart, unique to them. And that is what that sword is going to represent. And then whoever is up here with them will help to carry one of those back. But we will go through a ceremony on the sword. And our primary swordsman in Yedo has been Mr. Hurley. So he and I will have the opportunity to do that. We would like you also to make certain that you take the sleeve, the side cover, and the sword cover, and make sure that you take them. Some of them are military, and others of those are made out of silk, but each one of those are also different. So please take that with you. We will have the certificates over there, and not all the certificates have had all the person's names signed on them. So rather than just after everything's over trying to find someone, we're going to leave them there temporarily. And there are places, as I mentioned, after every one of our red belts belts, 8th degree, are red and white belts, and black belts that are Kyoshin or Renshi Sensei, 7th and 6th degree. If you have not signed, please sign, and there will be those 3 spots for you to invite anyone that you would like to have their signature on your certificate. We are going to ask that during this time, because it is an honor ceremony, that other than times when you feel like standing and applauding and things like that, that otherwise we'll keep the chatter down and it will be very respectful for those who have worked so hard for so many years to gain this. So I'm going to start out and read this resume. West Coast Guard has training. West Coast Guard has trained in martial arts for 46 years. He also holds an 8th degree in Tong Soo Murokan under Ki Wang Kim, who was a very honorable instructor and man. He is also trained in boxing, fencing, and Aikido. He is also trained with Albert Cheeks, and many of us remember Albert. He honorably served our country in the United States Army for 26 years and had numerous tours of duty in Vietnam. He is retired as a lieutenant colonel. He continues to teach under our original name of Southwest Institute in Lawton, Oklahoma. Wes has given generously to help our missions in Africa and our children who are going on to high school now because of that, and our kids in Brazil. And without West Coast Guard, and I will also say without Dan Perry, there would be no ABKA today, because they were the ones who stood with me through 2.5 years of cancer, when none of us thought that I was going to make it. These are the 2 men that I asked them and put in a letter to them, asking them, please take care of my family when I go to heaven. And about 4 years ago, West Coast Guard sent that back to me. That was from 1974, 75 that I wrote that to Wes. And he sent it back to me. He said, I think you can claim a healing now. The sword that he will be awarded is the highest military sword from World War II. It is the officer's Shinganto. And so West Coast Guard today goes to red belt, 8th degree in ABKA. So Wes, do stand up, please. Let's honor him. Step out here, please. Good. We present to you the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God. was interesting to me that West Cozart's resume was the smallest one I received. Patty Lester is the chief instructor of Anthem Liberty Dojo. She has trained in martial arts for 34 years. She also holds a 5th degree black belt under world champion Dale Cook, and many of us were at the kickboxing matches the night that this great champion Dale Cook called her up into the ring and presented her the 5th degree. She has also studied Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga, which she also teaches weekly here at Anthem. She is our ABKA president and is active in many other ministries, but notably in what is one of the greatest tools that God has ever had, and the people using it, and it's the Jesus Film. So Patty Lester will please step up. So I'm I'd like to have John Haymore and Becca Haymore step up here, please. You may notice that Patty's sword is shorter than all the rest of them, and I have no idea why. He holds a red belt in Boju, and has also studied Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga. He has trained under men like Chris Ledbetter, Ted Soliday, our brother who's now in heaven, James Keys, Patty Lester, and John Haymore. He is the vice president of ABKA, has a long list of his black belts who are now teaching in their ABKA church dojos. And that's one of the things that God asked us to do, is to reproduce disciples. He is our ABKA point man for our missions in Brazil. Scott Murray, if you please step forward. And then Mrs. Lester, if you would step up with us. Scott,
By the way, those of you who are brilliant have already discovered that we have set these in order by the alphabetical letter of their last name. It doesn't hold any particular significance. I've already mentioned that Danny was one of the men, along with Mr. Cozart, who kept the school open for years. And even then, after God saved me from the cancer, I wound up back in a full-time ministry and was not teaching, and they kept the martial arts alive that we were teaching. Danny Perry has trained in martial arts for over 46 years. He, along with Wes Cozart, are historically why there is this ABKA martial arts today. He studied and trained with such notable world champions as Chuck Norris, Bill Wallace, Tommy Williams. Danny was the first instructor who began the ABK school at Colonial Hills in Tyler, Texas 20 years ago. He's won many fights in his karate career, but none greater than his battle with cancer. And we are thankful and give God praise and glory for that. He continues to teach and help Sensei Dennis Hurley at Colonial Hills. His greatest joy is his family, his wife Mia, his children, and many of you know his son Daniel, who still teaches and competes as a second-degree black belt, and has deep appreciation for his extended family, ABKA. Danny Perry, going to 8th degree red belt. I'd like to have Mr. Cozart walk up here and Listen, all of us at some time have forgotten how important this book is. Our next man being presented, red belt. It wouldn't matter if I went by his first name, his nickname, his ring name, or his last name. It's Zip Taylor. Robert Zip Taylor. Zip has been training in martial arts for 45 years. He is trained in Taekwondo, Goju, Kyokushin, Eskrima, and Muay Thai. He is a certified ABKA Kobudo instructor and is one of our most knowledgeable sensei in Kata and Kobudo, where he had great achievement in competition in over 25 years of active competition. He actively served in the United States Army for nearly 10 years. He is an ordained minister and pastor at God's Family Community Church, and is active in both jail and street ministry. He is the chief instructor of Lionheart Dojo in Lawton, Oklahoma. Let's honor Mr. Taylor. The uninitiated would wonder why the full set of samurai armor represents warriors of the past. Because most of us have studied in numerous karate disciplines and other martial disciplines, but all of us have studied at least one Japanese art, and we know not only of the warriors of the past in martial arts, we know the great warriors of the past in the Word of God. Everyone from Joshua to Deborah, who were just outstanding warriors for God. So the bow of respect there is looking backward in past and saying we honor the tradition of the warrior. I'm going to ask Scott Murray to please come up here. The red guy. Our brother Greg Partridge went to be with the Lord, as have 5 of our karate friends in the last year and a half to 2 years, including Tommy Williams. Greg trained with Scott Murray and Ted Soliday, and Ted also is going to be with the Lord, mostly and with others in ABKA. He received his 8th degree on June 11th, 2016 in Goju, and I don't have this written, but I know the man who passed that to him, James Keys, and he's as legitimate a karate man as you will ever find, and Scott has had a great impression on James' life, bringing him closer to the Lord. Greg went to be with the Lord on October 30th, 2016. His wife, April, wrote this to me. Thank you so much for honoring him. He wouldn't have felt he deserved it, but would be humbled and honored to be on your list of honorees. And so posthumously today, Greg Partridge goes to red belt in ABKA. That belt will be tied around the Goju fist that sits in the tokonoma of our dojo, and it will forever be there until the Lord comes back again, or until that red oak fist that he carved out of a solid chunk of red oak off of the land that the dojo is on. So we're going to present this to you, Scott, and then also the certificate later, and just ask you that at any appropriate time that you can let the Partridge family know that his belt is tied around the fist forever at Tokonoma. I suppose people who don't know me well think I'm some hardcore tough-hearted guy, and I'm just not. I wish I was at times. Put in a little letter that we may not have all these knuckleheads together at one time ever again. So we want to make sure that we don't wait till someone's gone to heaven ever again before they're honored. I'm going to ask Danny DeMoss, please, to step up here. Dennis Hurley has been actively training and teaching in martial arts for 30 years. He holds rank and certification in American Taekwondo, Yanagi-Ryu, Iai-Jutsu, and has also studied and trained in Shorin-Ryu and Judo. He is ABKA's chief instructor and is chief instructor in Tyler, Texas. He lists as his instructors Danny Perry and other notables Keith Yates, and I believe I knew Keith, and Raymond Montoya. He is also an ABK certified Kobudo instructor. He's very active in his church and in ABK's Philippines mission. This tournament has actively, for many years, supported the work that we do in building the International Christian Care Centers on all the border towns between Mexico. And I don't care what side you are on. We don't need to keep ourselves away from other people. We need to embrace everyone with the love of Jesus. And that is not a political statement. But the care centers have changed the lives of literally hundreds of thousands. Our 17th one was built this year. So we come this morning and we honor Dennis Hurley. Mr. Perry and Mr. DeMoss, if you would step up here. Present to you the sword of the Spirit, the word of God. One of the things that is always noted, but always also bears repeating, no one makes achievement alone. No one makes achievement alone. We always have those who come alongside us, and I really didn't have time to list all the people that were listed as those who have influenced your life in training in martial arts and in training in God's Word. Dennis was our first 7th degree that we're presenting. Steve Whitaker has trained in martial arts for 45 years. He holds a black belt in Taekwondo, Shurite, and Iaido, where he has trained with, and many of us will know these guys, Dickie Hall, Jerry Barber, Kent Wooster. I've got to stop for a moment on Kent Wooster. Kent went to Angola Penitentiary and did demos with me, and we were down there for almost a full week. But when I first met Kent Wooster, he did not know Christ. And he came to an event where Tommy Williams and I were hosting to raise funds for kids to go to camp. And we had fights that night, and some of you guys were in the fights that night. Kent Wooster was a cop. He wasn't one of our very many honorable law enforcement officers. He was a dirty cop and a bad cop. And on the way home, after hearing the testimonies of those that night that fought team matches and did demos, he was living in Lindsay, Oklahoma, where he was serving. And he stopped on the way and knelt on a gravel road and received Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. That is what we're about. So Kent Wooster had a lot of Steve Whitaker's influence on his life. Steve, along with Patty Lester, had the original vision for ABKA as a missions organization, first and foremost. Steve was the founder of the John 3:16 ABK school. He was active for many years as a top competitor instructor. He is an ordained minister and is the senior pastor and CEO of John 3:16, where he has served faithfully for 28 years. And if you don't know street ministry and rescue ministry, you don't know how hard that is. And he has been faithful to the call. And so today we honor with 7th degree, Steve Whitaker.
Stephen Whitaker to come up, please.
Your mother could be helped to come up here and help tie the belt. We now will start with our Renshi Sensei, 6 degrees. The first one is Nell Astudillo. Nell has been training and teaching for over 25 years. He is the chief instructor of over 25 ABKA schools in the Philippines. When I was in college, I went to a James Brown concert. I promise you I was the lightest skinned person who was there. And he was called the hardest working man in show business. I don't know how we remember James Brown and the Famous Flames. But Nell is what I would say the hardest working man in ABKA to oversee 25 schools. He, along with his wife Kathy, are the ABKA missionaries there. He is the founder of King's Sword Martial Arts, holds high rank and certification in 7 different martial arts, including Wushu, Sando, Muay Thai, Muay Kwan. He is also an ABKA certified Kobudo instructor. He has won many martial arts competitions, and as have his students. But his greatest accomplishment is the changed lives of his students who continue to follow his example of commitment to Christ and service in ABKA ministry. Let's honor Nell Astudillo.
I'd like David Thomason also to step up here.
Danny DeMoss has trained in martial arts for 23 years, and I'm going to stop right there at this moment, and I'm going to tell you very quickly how Danny DeMoss impressed me as a very young man. It was 23 years ago that he started coming and driving from where he was being schooled in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and driving all the way to Sand Springs, Oklahoma. And when I saw the kind of dedication that he had, rain or shine, first one to be at the dojo, last one to want to leave. I one time said to him, Danny, I'm just impressed that you continue to drive so long to do this. And he looked at me and he said, this is where I get my spiritual nourishment every week. So I knew that it wasn't just martial arts that was putting all those miles on his car. It was the fellowship and the teaching from God's Word. And he hasn't veered from that course. Danny has trained in martial arts for 23 years. He is the one who introduced Jiu-Jitsu grappling to ABKA. He holds rank in Jiu-Jitsu and is a top competitor in grappling competitions. He continues to teach through Eastwood Dojo weekly. He lists numerous instructors and training partners, notably Dave Logsdon, John Roundtree, and Dale Sloan. Danny's entire family are involved in martial training and in Spartan course competition, and you don't ever want to try to break into their home either. We honor with 6th degree Renshi Sensei, Danny DeMoss. I want John Roundtree and Dale Sloan, please to stay. Many of you have met Clint Schultz, who is over the ABKA martial arts in Alaska. Clint simply was not able to be here, and he tried everything. But he had on the same weekend, he is a full-time school teacher as well as a full-time pastor. And I know that there are several who were here with me, Krista being one of them, that when we went up to White Mountain and we met Clint Schultz for the first time. We had no idea at all the quality of the man that we were meeting. And then also to meet his wife Tori and now their 3 children. And he simply was not able to be here. Sometimes as a pastor and a teacher such as that, you have to have priorities, and there are things that you cannot get out of. But the very next time that we can have Clint come down, we will honor him. But we're going to go through the honor anyway. And Krista and Dale, you guys have been up there numerous times with me. Would you step forward? And we're going to pretend that you're Clint Schultz today. I'm sorry, neither one of you passed. Clint is the chief instructor of Alaska ABKA Kingdom Dojo. He has trained for 23 years, holds high rank in Kaju Karate, Hofana Arnis, and Krav Maga, and is a certified ABKA Kobudo instructor. His instructors have been Ed Schultz, and that was his grandfather, and his grandfather, who now is in heaven, was his first instructor, P.G. Morlina and Marty Cole. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps and is also a full-time school teacher and the pastor of the First Assembly of God in Ketchikan, Alaska. And we honor today Clint Schultz. Krista and Dale will have the responsibility of holding those awards until we can, in person, give those to Clint Schultz. Justin Roy has trained in martial arts for over 20 years. He holds a black belt in Taekwondo, has also studied Ruku Kempo and Aikido. He is trained with a long list of ABKA black belts and above, and he still helps train at the Surrey Hills and Guthrie dojos. He is also active in his church as a teacher in the college class and as a deacon. Today we honor with 6th degree Renshi Sensei Justin Roy. I'm going to ask if Steve Whitaker and Robert Hanneman would step up here, please. They were some of his early instructors in ABKA, along with Danny DeMoss and Kai Mitchell and others. Stephen Whitaker inherited from his father the North Tulsa John 3:16 ABKA. He has trained in martial arts for 34 years, which is tough when you're only 25. But Stephen Whitaker has trained for 34 years. He also has trained in Shurite. His father, Steve, who was honored as a 7th degree today, has been his instructor, as well as many here who have trained with him. Stephen has ministered faithfully at the John 3:16 mission for 20 years. I was on board when Stephen was hired. I was actually on board when Steve was hired. When we walked out of the meeting where it was recommended that Stephen be hired as the youth minister at that time, 20 years ago, a man who did not know Stephen as well as I did said something along the line, and he wasn't being disrespectful, it was something along the line of, wait a minute, isn't that nepotism? I said, no. What that is we're getting the best man for the job. And in 20 years, he has proven that he is the best man for the job because he's the one who had God assign him that ministry. And we are also very proud, as I looked at his son Eli. And I know that Steve's father, Paul, was a minister. And there's generation after generation being passed down righteous seed who preach the gospel where many people would never want to go. So we honor today Stephen Whitaker, Renshi Sensei, 6th degree.
And of course, I'd like his father, Stephen, to step up here. Kai Mitchell has been training in martial arts for 33 years, 28 of those years in ABKA.
Some of his other martial training has been in Krav Maga, Aikido, wrestling and grappling, and American freestyle karate. A partial list of Kai's instructors are John Haymore, Patty Lester, and Steve Whitaker. Kai has been active in ABKA missions and is the co-founder of Arrow Heights, ABKA. And we honor today Kai Mitchell, and there is just a word that his mother would like to say.
Hello, I'm Julia, and I'm Kai Mitchell and Keith Mitchell's mom. I'm sure some of you remember him. I wanted to say how much ABKA has meant to our family. When God brought John Haymore into my son's life, they were rejected by their birth father and rejected by their stepfather. And John Haymore came in and mentored them and loved them, and they have turned out to be such wonderful men and husbands and fathers. I couldn't be prouder. And I want to thank God for bringing John Haymore and ABKA into their lives. Thank you.
The Bible says there are many instructors, but there are few fathers. And John became the father for Kai and for Keith, for many other young men, just like some of our other men have, and some of our ladies have become mothers to those whose parents missed the wonderful blessing of the greatness of their children's lives. If I could have John Haymore up here at this time. Usually when a sentence starts, what can I say about Dale Sloan? Not reading in a bio, what I would say he's one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. Dale has trained in martial arts for 23 years. He was not brought up in a Christian home. He was a Mongols biker, an outlaw biker. I think in and out of trouble maybe once in his life. He is still, to this day, an instructor at Cornerstone Dojo, where he began. His instructors and training partners are too many to list, but some of those who are here are John Roundtree, Krista Vance, Danny DeMoss, Dale Davidson. Dale Sloan has been a volunteer chaplain and preacher at Tulsa County Jail, that's the David L. Moss, Tulsa County Jail, for 13 years. And I know for certain that when they do baptisms, a lot of times it's 200 and 300 men and women at a time. So today we honor Dale Sloan. If I could have John Roundtree, Krista, and Danny DeMoss up here. Dale Davidson is here, but I haven't seen him. But if you men would step up.
The book changed my life. It is the book we live by, the books you teach, the people many who born us would never reach. God bless you. This is a wonderful kind of sword, just like God gave you a hard kind, and then threw away the mold. But the steel that's in the sword represents this steel, strong steel, the DNA of God. And we continue to minister in love.
David Thomason is an instructor at Tyler, Jacksonville, and Rusk, Texas. He has been in military, self-defense, and martial training for over 20 years, served actively in the United States Marine Corps for 20 years, retired as a gunnery sergeant. He has also studied Shorin-Ryu and Tai Chi. His main instructors have been Danny Perry and Dennis Hurley, and David is very active in the ABKA Philippines mission. Today we honor with 6th degree Renshi Sensei, David Thomason.
Mr. Perry, if you would also step up. We want to make sure we get this right. Get it done right. These are the Marines, you guys are that. God bless you.
Remember this time, David would give you the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God, by which you will live your life. Pass on to every We have just one other Renshi sensei, and this isn't on his resume sheet, but we really believe if God begins a work of ABKA in a church, you don't close it down if there's some difficulties. And there was some difficulties at Freedom, and God was aware of it. There needed to be someone who would step in the gap. And I did for a couple of months. I just got so tired of being beat up by those Freedom Dojo guys. But God called the man to take that school, and he called the right man, and that is Robert Hanneman. Robert is chief instructor at Freedom Dojo, has trained in martial arts for 21 years, mostly in Bushido Kai. He has trained with the Whitakers, Justin Roy, Danny DeMoss, Scott Murray, Kai Mitchell, Patty Lester, Dick Nixon, Krista Vance. He is active with his family in his church at Ulaga. And he holds one very, very unique distinction. He is our only instructor in the United States who has been able to keep a pastor in martial arts. And that is Andrew Rankin, second degree. So today we honor with Renshi Sensei, Robert Hanneman. I'm just going to take the two at the top here. I'm going to ask Stephen Whitaker to step up here and to help with this. Certainly the other men who were mentioned and lady, you were very significant in his life for him to list you. Because I said that was the last Renshi, 6th degree Rokudan that we were going to honor, some of you went, phew. You think it's all over? No, says I. There are a couple of other honors. The very first one is going to be the young lady who has been my right hand. She has been my mission buddy, she has been my work buddy, and a lot of the work is done behind the scenes. We could not have accomplished what we did today without her behind the scenes work. And that is Krista Vance. we want today to honor Krista Vance. And I have for her, and I'm going to tie on her, the belt that I wore for many years until all of you and then Danny and Wes tied a red belt on me. So Krista Vance, if you would step up here, please. And John Haymore, if you would step up here. Excuse me, I meant John Roundtree. John is such an unusual name, it's odd that I would mix that up. According to Krista's own testimony, she never believed ever that she was an athlete. She tried numerous things, and it just wasn't what God had equipped her for. But when I think now, is it 17 years ago? How long ago? 16 and a half years ago? A youth minister at Eastwood asked if we would start a club there. And we didn't really have anybody at that time ready to take it, so I started it for 1 month. And then I visited with John Roundtree. And John Roundtree now has been that instructor at Eastwood Dojo for all these years. The difference that he made in Krista's life was that she had felt in many ways a failure in athletic competitions or athletic anything. But she had the courage when John called out for someone to demonstrate Heian Shodan. And she went out and she did her best, and by her own admission, she messed up some. And John Roundtree said words to her that changed her life that day. He said, "Your best will always be good enough here and good enough for me." There would not be today in ABKA Krista Vance if there hadn't been a John Roundtree. So, John, I want you to help me tie on. And we have one more. You may notice that some of the belts were longer, some of them shorter. What many who don't realize, the longer you stay in martial arts, the shorter this little part is the only part of the belt that shrinks. And it just keeps
I know that.
Remember, Wes, some of us used to trip on our belts, and we don't have to worry about that anymore, do we, brother?
Mine barely sticks out.
There is one more person that we're going to honor today, and then all of our honorees are going to come up, and we're going to bow before what I believe is a very accurate portrayal of Christ, not as a matter of appearance, but as in who he is and what he has done. But before we do that, there is someone who I want to honor, and I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to be the oldest guy, but to have been in longest, still holding one thing, and that is that I am still, at this point, been in longer, and as a matter of responsibility and privilege, I now and then can do something like this. And It is a privilege to me today to promote John Roundtree to 5th degree black belt. All right, now wait a minute. I don't want to get a big head. Those of you who know John knows that he is my example in humility and a very dear friend. This is my 5th degree black belt, and it is a privilege to be able to tie this on to John Roundtree. I got you, buddy. Put it on. Danny DeMoss, if you'll also step up here, please. Dale Sloan, if you'll also step up here, please.
Don't break it. Pretty old.
God's grace. Danny and Dale and John, for so many years, promoted rank after rank after rank together. And so it was only fitting. There were numerous people who, when I asked, who have you trained under, one of the very first names that was there was John Roundtree. So anyway, that was very fitting of him.
I want to interrupt for just a second. Mr. Holzbauer, there's nobody like you, but we have, in the best way, we want to honor you by just giving you some words of appreciation. And we've written them down. We want to present them to you, and you can read them at any time, maybe times when you just feel like, was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it. Look at the lives right here that you have changed, and all the ones that aren't here. Everything is worth it. And only God knows everything that you've done for ABKA. But we want to appreciate you.
Don't cry.
I did not have that in the program. God forbid that anything would interrupt what I have written down. But I can say to you that it has been a blessing, and I thank you for the blessing that you guys are in my life. And we will continue on the battlefield until Jesus takes us home, or he comes before that time. I don't know how many of you know how to do rapture practice. But if your timing is good, you don't come down. So, thank you guys very much.